as Managing Director and CEO since its inception in 2008. Prior to CRC, he was the CEO of the Abuja Enterprise Agency and held significant roles in the banking industry, including CFO and the General Manager of a publicly listed bank. Dr. Popola's achievements have garnered recognition in entrepreneurship, business management, finance, and youth empowerment. He is a fellow of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Nigeria and affiliated with 7 professional organizations. Under his leadership, CRC Credit Bureau Limited has won prestigious awards, including Best Credit Bureau Nigeria for 3 consecutive years from Capital Finance International. Beyond his corporate roles, Dr. Popola is a renowned speaker at global seminars, focusing on initiatives to strengthen financial systems for sustainable economic growth. His contributions have made a significant impact on Nigeria's financial landscape and internationally. You're welcome, sir, Dr. Popola. For our viewers joining us, we are pleased to have you wherever you are from the globe. We encourage you to follow us on our social media platforms. We are at CRC Credit Bureau. We are at CRC Credit Bureau on Instagram. We are on Facebook. We are at CRC Credit Bureau. On Twitter, we are CRC Credit Bureau also. And on YouTube, definitely, we are CRC Credit Bureau Limited. We encourage you to follow us on our social media. We encourage you to share this webinar link with your fellow colleagues, wherever they may be. And you can see also our LinkedIn address as well. We are definitely on LinkedIn, so follow us. If you wish to contact us as well, we are on the 2nd floor at 26 Makati Street, Onikon, Lagos. While our website, you can find us at www.crccreditbureau.com. And our email address is support@crccreditbureau.com. You can, of course, give us a call on 080-720-90622. We are pleased to have you once again. And I would like to just tell you briefly about CFET. CFET, like I said initially, is CRC's Financial Education Center, where we design programs, training programs. We curate training programs for specific needs, tailored to the needs of our clients. So in any areas of training interventions that is necessary, please call on CFET. When you remember CRC, you know that CRC also has an arm of training, which is CFET. Now, without much ado, we would like to go into today's session. We have our experts as they've been introduced to us. We have Mr. Powell is ready, and he'll be sharing his slides shortly. Mr. Powell.
Yeah, good morning.
Excuse me, please. Pardon me, Mr. Powell. Sorry, I'll be calling on Dr. Popola for his welcome address and introduction. My apologies, Mr. Powell.
Good morning. Am I heard well?
Good morning. Dr. Popola will be giving us the welcome address. You're welcome, sir.
Good morning. Yes, good morning.
Good morning.
Okay, thank you so much. I'm happy you can hear me. I'm trying to share my screen, and while that is going on, yeah, I hope you can see my screen.
We can.
Okay, all right, so good. Thank you so much. Good morning. Let me say a big thank you, first of all, to Powell and the AB Microfinance Bank team management for, accepting to partner with us on this webinar 14.0 this morning. is an interesting topic that I have chosen this morning that speaks to the core of what AB Microfinance Bank, what they do in Nigeria. So this morning, we'll be looking at mastering access to credit and credit management, focusing on small and medium enterprises. I would say focusing on micro, small, and medium enterprises, actually. So, and I want to thank my team members who have worked day and night to put this together. And I welcome all of us participants who have joined us this morning. I believe that a lot of other people will still join us as we move on. So this morning, like I said, we're looking at mastering access to credit and credit management. I'll take just some few slides just to introduce us to the subject matter and to talk around the SMEs landscape generally, and where we are on credit penetration, access to credit for SMEs in Nigeria. I will talk briefly about challenges that are faced in practical terms, and then I will talk about our own role as a credit bureau on how we have been assisting both the lender and the borrowers regarding SME space. And I know Power will talk extensively on her experience. When I listen to his bio data, I'm so happy that he's been in Africa for long, and he likes Africa. He enjoys staying in Lagos. He's attended to a lot of thousands of SMEs, so he has a very rich experience to share with us today. So most of the conversation will be left for Powell to handle, as it were. So this webinar will provide some insights and practical guide on how SMEs can really master access to credit, how they can get, where are the credits, how can they source them, and for those who already are enjoying credit in one way or the other, how do you manage your credit? What are the best practices for you to manage your credit if you are already enjoying credit access as an SME or as a micro business? Naturally, we've seen that majority of companies or operators, business operators in Nigeria are micro, small, medium enterprises. As a matter of fact, more than 98% are SMEs, micro, small, and medium enterprises, MSMEs in Nigeria. But because of that, you can see that they are very, very important to the Nigerian economy. We have seen that in terms of numbers, there are almost about 40 million of such organizations or businesses in Nigeria, and they account for 6.2% of gross exports, and they contribute about 46% to our GDP. In other words, the day-to-day activities, production activities going on in Nigeria, this set of companies spread all over the country contribute about 46%. And in terms of gender, we realize that, both male and female are active practitioners and operators and owners of small and medium enterprises in Nigeria, with the figure of about 52% male and about 48% are female. And very active population in terms of age, those who own MSMEs. About 45% of them are within the age of 31 to 40. And you can see that these are guys, ladies and gentlemen, who have had some level of experience, and they are in their age, their very strong age for productivity. So they play a major role and contribute significantly to employment generation. They also play a significant, role in innovation, in bringing innovation, adopting technologies, and so many other things that you can think of that a company will will bring to an economy. But they face serious financial obstacles, unlike large firms. For larger firms, they don't have problem getting access to credit. Banks run after them. Every major financial institution run after them. And they enjoy it, without stress, with little or no request for collateral, other than just to say maybe combine what we call floating and fixed charges on their assets. And but when it comes to MSMEs, it's a different ball game. research has shown that about 70% or more than 70% of them have never used the external form of funding other than the money they can muster from themselves and their relatives. And so in Nigeria, from the data we have in the credit bureau, only about 1.8 million businesses have had access to credit. So when you situate that to about 40 million MSMEs we have, you can then conclude that less than 5% of micro, small, medium enterprises in Nigeria enjoy credit facilities from formal sources of credit, like banks and other financial institutions. And the reasons for this are not far-fetched. We know the issues they have. We are familiar with them. Documentation and collateral is an issue. Most of them don't have what they can bring forth to secure their credit, and most of them don't have structures, governance structures, that can support formal form of lending. Some of them have issues around even opening accounts and having accounting, opening bank accounts and having accounting, devices like maybe accounting, applications, or even account departments, or even recording basics inflow and outflow of cash and financial transactions in their businesses. And of course, a lot of them have these little or no financial management skills. So because they don't have all that, there's always a challenge for how they manage their finances. More often than not, most of them have their personal finances that are intertwined and also influx. Has some level of no separation between their personal money and the business money. And banks don't like that kind of attitude. And of course, high cost and lack of not wanting to open up their business to outsiders, business secrets, how the business is run. All of these contribute to not being able to access credit. And of course, there is also the technical issue of understanding where the kind of barriers, the kind of, things that are always required by banks and financial institutions for them to access credit. And finally, is also the fact that most of them are not even aware of where they can locate the funds. There are so many MSME funds for MSMEs in Nigeria, but a lot of MSMEs don't know how and where those funds are. So the next thing for me now is just to generally just talk around where MSMEs can find access to, where they can find the credit. So if you are here as an SME, maybe a micro business or a small business or a medium enterprise, I'll just run down some of the areas or places where you can really get money. I start with the commercial banks. We all know commercial banks. They are there to support what we call lending for the short term. And for the short term can be under 1 year, can be 2 years, can be 3 years, up to 10 years. So they have all manner of products and tools relating to funding for small businesses that you can leverage on. So if you are a customer of a bank, maybe it makes sense for you to approach them to find out what are the products and services relating to credit that your bank has. Commercial banks, I'm very much aware, are always looking for MSMEs to lend to. Most of them nowadays have dedicated desk for SMEs so that they can, and they have developed their capacities and competencies to be able to support MSMEs when it comes to credit. The other one is at the microfinance banks. There are almost 1,000 microfinance banks in Nigeria, and they are spread all over the country. One of the very, very frontline microfinance banks is the one that is appearing with me on this, the MD is appearing with me on this podium this morning, AB Microfinance Bank, and similar microfinance banks in Nigeria. As a matter of fact, microfinance banks focus extensively on lending to consumers, to individuals, and to small businesses. So I guess Power will talk to us some specifics that MSMEs can benefit from based on his experience and what his bank is doing in the regard. There's what we call shadow banks. These are institutions that are not deposit-taking institutions, but they are also financial institutions, but they leverage on owners' funds to lend, mostly to consumers and small businesses. So fintechs, so many of them nowadays, micro lenders, those are the ones, they are not in the same league with microfinance bank, because for micro lenders, they don't have and they don't need to obtain CBN license to operate, but they do just obtain licenses from the respective states where they operate to be able to operate. And then we have other private creditors like Growing Fund. Growing is an institution in Nigeria that's exclusively focused on startups and access to funding for SMEs. And they have been in Nigeria for a long time. So there are so many of them all over the country that we can approach. Then we have non-financial sources of funding for small businesses. Part of what small businesses can enjoy is to have what we call suppliers credit or buyers credit or invoice discounting or factoring. When you use suppliers credit, it means you can always obtain your raw materials on credit and delay the payment for that under terms and conditions that are agreeable to between you and the supplier. So if you are a small business, you can always get, maybe you are a school, for instance, you can always get publishing companies to supply you books that you use for your students while you pay them later. You pay them when the student resumes, for instance. It could be uniform, it could be furniture, it could be so many other things like that. And I'm just using school as an example. So this is a form of credit. It's not cash credit, but when you obtain such item on credit, it's a form of funding to you. Buyer's credit is the same thing where you can, if you have good value proposition, your customer can pay ahead for your products. And when they pay you that money ahead of your delivering your product, you are enjoying the cash. It's a form of credit to you, and you should really use that. We have situations, if I use school as an example again, where parents can pay for school fees for a whole year. If you really have very good marketing, technique, and you give them generous, conditions. Maybe you give a discount if somebody pay you for a whole year rather than pay you every time. So, or pay you during the holiday ahead of resumption. You can do something like that. And so many other businesses like that can really benefit from buyer's credit. Invoice discounting is where you perform you've performed a service, and then you have a situation where you have to wait for your money to be paid. Maybe the company you have made suppliers to, maybe it's an oil company, or it's a bank, or it's a manufacturing company that you have supplied materials to. Then they have a window of maybe 30 days credit, 60 days credit, or 90 days credit, because sometimes for some companies you have to wait like 3 months for you to collect your money. Such invoices, you can discount them with discount houses. Okay, this is where the discount houses come in. If it is, always take that kind of document to a discount house, who can then give you cash at a discounted value, and then you can then begin to use the money while they wait to collect what that company is owing you. So these are all non-financial sources, but they are also very good source of funding for you as SMEs. Then there are specialized government intervention funds, and there are specialized government institutions that are basically set up to support funding and access to funds for SMEs. Good examples of them include Bank of Industry. We are all familiar with the Bank of Industry. Bank of Agriculture is, while Bank of Industry focuses on industries, especially manufacturing companies, small businesses, and so they have specific window and specific department that attends to SMEs. That I'm very much aware, and I know they do a lot in that regard. So you can approach them, and their rate is also not at commercial rate; it's at concessional rate, because this is part of what government is doing to support access to finance for SMEs. We also have Bank of Agriculture. This is basically for agribusiness. They are based in Kaduna, but I know they are all over the country. They have over 300 locations throughout the country, where if you are a farmer, you can approach them. There's Nigeria Export-Import Bank, what is properly called NEXIM. They focus on businesses that are export-oriented. So if your business is export-oriented, NEXIM can support you with access to finance. Then in Lagos, in particular, we have Lagos State Entrepreneurs Trust Fund, which provide financial and business support for small businesses who run in Lagos. Nowadays, I think the Small and Medium Enterprises Development Agency of Nigeria has also come up with an initiative that's almost about 200 billion or so, or 80 billion, 80 billion fund that is now being made available to small and medium enterprises all over the country. So all these funding are there. Most of them under these special schemes and skills, are given to SMEs under very generous conditions, relaxed collateral, request for collateral security, and the interest rates are always very lower than what normal conventional banks will charge. Beyond that, we have NGOs, we have some specialized institutions that also try to see the need to support funding, need of SMEs, because they realize that SME is the engine of growth and engine of development of economy. I'll just give you about 4 or 5 of them that you can see here. You have the Tony Elumelu Foundation Entrepreneurship Program that supports SMEs in thousands every year. What do they do? They support with training, they support with funding, and they support with networking opportunities for small, medium, and small and medium enterprises. So especially those who have good ideas and they want to have a startup, they want to just start their businesses, and they focus on the young people. And so if you are a young person, you have ideas, or you are just starting your business, please check out Tony Elumelu Foundation Entrepreneurship Program. We have Africans Young Entrepreneur Empowerment Nigeria. Is a fund, or is a program that empowers youth to build startups and become entrepreneurs. They provide opportunity for young entrepreneurs for training, for mentorship. They also give grants. Grant is at no charge, and you are not expected to return it if it's a grant. And then they also provide opportunity for networking. There's what we call IDICE. IDICE is Innovational Dimensions for Creative Entrepreneurs. This is an organization that supports and empowers young entrepreneurs who are in the creative industry. Part of activities that they have for small businesses include training and mentoring, grants, and also access to fund, networking, and business development opportunities. And they also provide consulting services, including business advisory services to those who approach them. There is what we call Orange Corners Nigeria, as also a good example of an organization that empowers young people. Their own programs normally include focusing on granting entrepreneurship skills and training and capacity development, mentoring, and so many other services to small businesses. And of course, I've mentioned Globin before. So these are sources of funding for you as a small business. And there are so many of them. For me, from my experience over years, and this is more than 30 years of experience, funding should not be an issue for SMEs, because there are so many institutions out there that are ready to give fund. It's just preparing yourself for how to get the fund. So the question is, how do you then access the fund? I'll just give some tips for you. I believe Power will speak to practical part of some of these things I'm going to talk about today. The first thing is for you to maintain good credit history, because anywhere you want to borrow money from, they want to know whether you are willing to repay the loan and whether you have the capacity to even, use the loan. Now, to speak to willingness to repay and your ability to repay and the capacity to repay all boils down to somebody trying to see what have you done with money in the past. And that's where your good credit history becomes very important. So for most of those institutions I've mentioned in the previous page, you realize that they will approach a company like ours, CRC Credit Bureau, to check you out and find out that have you ever borrowed before in the past? If you have ever borrowed in the past from various sources, how did you use the facilities that you had? Or if you are still enjoying facilities, are you repaying? Are you honoring the obligations? This is what this good credit history stand for, and I'll talk more about that. But so for you, you need to regularly monitor your credit report. And that's what that means. Because you have never borrowed before, then clearly the data about you, the data about your business is in the credit bureau, is in CRC. And lenders generally will check to identify errors, to identify inaccuracies, to identify whether there have been fraudulent activities that have been taken in the past or that is currently happening to the facility you are enjoying. The other one is to have good business relationship with your banks. Your bank, whether it's a bank, whether it's a cooperative societies, and banks generally, I mean commercial banks, microfinance banks, and all those institutions that I mentioned. If you have a relationship with them, it's good for you to have very good relationship so that you can approach them at any time to, request for funding. And it's good for you to have that relationship, for you to also know, to find out from them what are the specific services and products that you can enjoy as a small business or as a medium enterprise. The other one is maintaining financial record. I spoke about that when I was talking about challenges. This is one of the most difficult challenges that lenders have for SMEs. Most of SMEs don't have record for financial transactions. Some have bank accounts, but they mingle their business transaction money or fund with their personal money and personal transactions. So when you approach a bank, they are unable to see how they can dimension what your businesses have been doing over time. And that is always a difficult thing. It's always good for you to maintain a separate bank account for your business transactions. And even if you have never borrowed before, when a bank, whether commercial or microfinance bank, look at your account, they can always, know they can track the inflow and outflow of it. Most of them have tools. They have their applications. They have the skills. They have competencies to look at your financial statement and generate and reconstruct your cash flow. And from there, know whether you are credible and whether you have capacity to really enjoy credit. It's also important for you to always have your cash budget. Now, most businesses don't really prepare budgets, but as a small business, cash budget, if you do not have any other form of budget, it's good for you to have cash budget to determine inflows, determine outflows, and determine the funding gap you are likely to have and when you are likely to have that funding gap. I spoke to you, I gave an example, I've been giving an example of a school all the while. A school cannot just know the funding need they will have if they don't know the number of students that they need to support, the number of teachers and employees they need to pay to, if they don't know the income that is going to come from tuition fee and other sources of funding that they will have from the students. So, but when they do cash budgets, maybe on a quarterly basis, on a term basis, they can know exactly the revenue they are expecting. They can know the expenses that they will go through in a term, and they will know where the funding gap is going to be. And that will speak to them, once they know the funding gap, how to approach all these sources of funding I've mentioned and be able to, with very good knowledge, with top-notch knowledge, tell them this is how much I need, and this is why I need what I need, and this is how long I would need the fund for. That's the essence, that's the beauty of a cash budget. But beyond cash budgets, also to have a business plan, which talks to the future of your business. When you have a business plan, it talks about the next 2 years, the next 3 years, sometimes the next 5 years as to how the future of the business will look like. That is about vision. It's about visioning. It's about your dream, aspirations for your business, but documented in a way that speaks to the naira and kobo component of what the future will look like. That's what business plan is. So these are just major small tips that I want to give to you on how you can prepare yourself to get access to credit in this under the circumstances I've mentioned. So the creditors, I mean the lenders, like AB Microfinance Bank, what do they look for? I won't talk much about that, but I know, what do they grant credit for? I know Power will speak more about that. But I know they grant credit for working capital for you to purchase raw materials, for you to pay wages, for you to acquire new equipment, new tools, new assets, for computerize your environment, and for you to cover short-term cash flow funding gap, because it can arise from the fact that you make sales, but sales you make are on credit, and you need some time before those who bought your materials pay you. You can have a funding gap that they can help to something. Secondly, you can have cash short-term funding requests, maybe based on transactions. Maybe you just get, maybe you're a restaurant and somebody say, come and cater for us in a wedding and in a wedding program. Come and give us food for about 1,000 people, and they are not paying you. Maybe they just pay you about 50% of that, and you need funding for the rest. So these are funding for short-term duration, 1 month, 2 months, and so on and so forth. I know banks and creditors generally grant credit for that. Like I said, maybe Power will talk more around those things. So let me just now go to where we help as credit bureau. Where do we help? So we help because a bureau is all about data. We have the data of all borrowers in the country, and we keep those data for those who are lending, so that they can always provide, they can have very, very good data to provide the borrowers or potential borrowers. And the whole essence is for them to have very comprehensive information about you, so that they are not going to be shooting in the dark. So we have seen that where bureaus are, there's always some level of support that we have seen that manifests positively for SMEs. We'll know that in countries where we have bureaus like in Nigeria, the percentage of small firms that report challenging constraint or financing constraint, they always reduce by about 22%. And we also know that in countries that have bureaus like Nigeria, the probability of obtaining a bank loan for a small business always increases by almost also about 12%, from 28% to 40%. So bureaus bring a lot of value to the table. And how do you now leverage on that? And this is where I'll be rounding up my presentation, is to say that it's good for you to have access to your credit information. It's good for you to go to the credit bureau. You can go online virtually. You can download CRC mobile app. You can walk into the company to request for your credit information. Don't say, I've never borrowed before, because you will be surprised that there may have been transactions you have done in the past that have thrown your account into debit, and such information has been really reported to the credit bureau. So you don't need to wait until when you are ready to go and borrow before you know your credit status. Just the same way you do medical checkup, you can do this credit checkup for yourself and for your businesses. And that is what is very important that we bring to this table. Now, we support lenders to have information about you, which they can use. So if you have good information, they will be looking for you. Some of them will try to reach you, okay, to sell their products, lending, credit products to you, so that you can improve on that. You are also, if you are someone, a business that have borrowed before, or you are an individual that have borrowed before, you can subscribe to our credit overview notification products, where you can be advised every time, from time to time, especially at the end of every month, your status in the credit bureau. In other words, because we house all data for all lenders in Nigeria, that opportunity is there for them to bring your data to us. And so when you have that, you can subscribe to the Icon Plus or Com Plus. That's what we call the two products, where at the end of every month, we send you your status as we have them from all the information we have from all the financial institutions. We can also support you to mitigate fraud and identity theft by making sure that when you check, if somebody has made use of your identity, or they have even transacted business using your account, which you may not be aware of, when you do such credit checks using the credit information, through us or from your CRC mobile app, you will see that you can prevent such happening. And then when you subscribe to this ComPlus or Icon Plus that I mentioned, and you are getting your, financial status, assets, the credit status all the time. If anybody is trying to be funny with your account when it comes to credit, you know it on time. And then, of course, like Motunrayo said, we have a very good, strong continuous education center, what we call CLC Financial Education Center, CVEC, where we run a lot of programs for SMEs and for lenders generally. So these are areas that we can help you as SMEs. Today is not for us to talk about how we help the banks and the lenders generally. Most of them know how they leverage on our platform to profile those who approach them for access to credit. Okay, so final takeaway for you as SME is that you need to have financial planning, you need to have cash flow budgeting, you have business plan. You need to communicate with your lenders from time to time, especially if you have ever borrowed. If you are experiencing difficulty and you have a loan and you're experiencing difficulty in repayment, maybe there's an unusual circumstance that make you not to be able to fulfill your obligations, or maybe an act of God, natural disaster, or something happened, or you are not just able to sell, or you sold, but your customers have not paid you for you to really go and pay the lender. Please approach your lenders, approach your banks, approach the financial institutions that are granted you loan. They can help you to repackage the loan very well so that you are not going to be embarrassed. But you don't approach them, and then the loan, the time for you to repay is here and you're unable to pay, then that creates a lot of problem. And it will be noted in your credit information that is with bureau that you are defaulted. And if you are defaulted, subsequent access to credit information to credit may be a challenging thing for you. And that's why it's always good to communicate with lenders. Always also be very sure that you understand the terms of loans and that you are going to take. If you are signing on to a new loan, please sit down and go through it one by one, the terms and conditions. There are what we call small prints in documents that a bank can give to you. Maybe you can go to 3, 4, 5 pages. They are always very small prints, and you are always in a hurry to collect the loan, and you just sign without reading them. Please don't do this. Read so that you understand every term, every condition that is attached to the loan, especially the issue around pricing of the product, of the loan, the issue around penalty if you default, and the issue around realization of your collateral or security you have put forward if you don't pay on time and if there's a default. Please, this is very important. I've told you to check your report and build strong credit profile, and I've also told you to regularly monitor your credit report so that you can know your status with us out there. The final one is to diversify income sources so that you don't put yourself at risk by having only one source of income. If you do that, that can create problem, because if anything happens to that source of income, that may be a major issue for you. So these are things that I want to share with you this morning. Let me leave the floor now for my co-host this morning, Powell, to also come on board. CRC. So please go to our website to download. You can see a lot more about what we do and how we can support you. You can download our mobile app called CRC mobile app. You can go to our website and just look at how you can download your report there and so on and so forth. There are so many things that we can do for you. And you can call on us based on the information that Motunrayo has provided to you, either by email or other ways that you can reach us. Thank you. Thank you so much. Good morning.
Thank you so much, Dr. Popola. It's been a very insightful session, I must confess, and I know our participants can also attest to that. You've provided such actionable insights, for that SMEs and how SMEs can access funds. And not just that, accessing funds. You mentioned something and you said accessing funds should be the least of the worries of SMEs. With everything you have provided here, I'm very sure that they are going to harness these opportunities, these windows that you have shared, and they are going to enhance their businesses with this information. Thank you so much, sir. You have definitely broadened the horizon of our participants, and I believe they are nodding their heads. So without much ado, I would like to call on Mr. Powell. Mr. Powell, you can please share your slide. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. First of all, I would like to very warmly welcome all online participants of this discussion. Thank you for dedicating your time and expressing interest of being part of this dialogue today. Secondly, thank you very much to our partners, CRC Credit Bureau, and especially Mr. Popoola for hosting me at this event. It's more than a pleasure. Thank you very much. And just a quick check, am I heard properly? Can somebody confirm?
Yes, very audible. We can hear you.
Can hear you properly.
Very good. Very good. So now, in terms of my presentation, I have opted for a very short verbal presentation of the bank. And then I think that what serves the biggest interest for all the participants is moving to the panel where I will be able of answering all the relevant questions, and maybe we will be capable of opening a discussion around the areas of the biggest interest. So maybe very brief introduction. My name is Paweł Wódz. I have a pleasure of working for AB Microfinance Bank Nigeria for the last 10 years. As a matter of fact, yesterday was the day where I celebrated my 10th anniversary in the country. I'm sorry, I think somebody is not muted. There might be. Okay, I think now it's better. Yes. Thank you. So it's my pleasure to be here. AB Microfinance Bank Nigeria. Last year we celebrated our 15th anniversary in the country. So for the 15 years we've been serving financial inclusion and our customers in Nigeria. We are a bank with the mission of providing financial services mostly to micro SME sector, people partially financially excluded or even unbanked. We've been remaining committed to this mission for the last 15 years. Over the last 15 years, we have exhibited also significant development in the country. A few key numbers. The number of loans we have disbursed to MSMEs over the last 15 years is approaching 900,000. Currently, we are present in 10 states of Nigeria, and in this quarter, we expect to be present in 11, maybe even 12. We are a bank of 1,200 almost employees. We have about 600,000 bank accounts with our customers. Microcredit remains our bread and butter product, the main product that we are the most dedicated to, because we think that this is still the product the most sought for and appreciated by MSME market participants in Nigeria. So, Mr. Popoola, I think that in terms of the presentation of the bank, I would like to stop here because, as I mentioned before, I trust that this meeting will be guided by some questions that might be very interesting to all the participants. And I think that the biggest value, all those online, all those who have committed their time to be here with us, will take from the discussion. So I'm ready to answer all the questions or maybe focus the discussions around the points of interest of the participants.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Powell. Yes, so I think we can move straight into our panel discussion session so we can take a lot of questions. And I like to state that our participants, you can please use the Q&A box to drop your questions, your comments. They will be taken. So, Mr. Powell, I would like to start with this question for you. As an institution focused on serving SMEs in Nigeria, what strategies has AB Microfinance Bank implemented to streamline access to credit for small and medium-sized enterprises? What are the strategies that you have been able to implement? How do you go about?
Thank you. Very relevant question, because all of this starts around it. So first of all, before I even go to the strategy, my approach is to remember why we are here, which means to remain dedicated to our mission. And our mission is not only to be the private-driven institution, but first of all, to serve particular groups of customers in the country. So this is where all starts from. Yes, you need to remember what is your mission as a microfinance institution, who are your customers, and how can you serve them properly, what kind of products you can deliver to them. Now going further on that, to the strategy. So I think first of all, it's about the proper composition and proper design of the product features. We see in Nigeria many microfinance institutions, or see many institutions providing services to MSME sector. Some of them competing with the number of products delivered. I'm not saying it is wrong, but our approach is slightly different. Based on the discussion with our customers, we see that still the main interest and the main product that MSMEs are interested in is the best shaped loan. And we are working around all best features around this product. This is the product that attracts interest of most of our customers. So I would say the proper composition of this plays a very essential role. And further on that, I think in general, it is important to have very inclusive approach. So to give the instance for that, despite the fact that we also offer SME loans up to 60, 70 million, we have never, let me say, written off our interest for people who really struggle at the bottom of the pyramid. Consequently, the minimum amount that you can access with our bank still remains at 50,000. Sometimes it's really difficult to make this product profitable. Yet, despite that, we have never written off this minimal threshold. So I would say the entry barrier to be our customers remains low, very open. Second thing, we remain very flexible in terms of collateral composition. We very much understand that collateral might be an issue, especially for fledgling entrepreneurs. Consequently, despite some requirement of collateral to have our loans, we are very flexible in terms of its composition. So it doesn't have to be a very heavy fixed asset. It can be an inventory, it can be even household equipment if micro entrepreneurs choose so, or it can be a guarantee of somebody who is your business partner, or somebody who can guarantee for you. And I would like also to emphasize that despite our 15 years experience in the country, we have never decided to opt for cash collateral, which is known differently as for savings. We know that some market players build the loan product around it. We remain excluding cash collateral from the list of our acceptable collateral items. Another thing I would like to mention also for me plays an important strategic importance is that we do reward repayment and loan behavior of our customers. And we do have a special package for repeat borrowers. And I already mentioned that you can start with us with a very small loan with very limited requirements. However, your repayment capacity, repayment behavior counts. And it can reflect to receiving much, much higher loans in the following loan cycles. And also from certain loan cycle, we also offer financial discounts, no matter how the interest rate is. So this is more or less about the product. Second part of the strategy is about the product delivery. And this comes down to the digitalization and automation that we have invested heavily in, especially in fast pace since 2018. So I think this is also a strategic approach to make us more approachable, but any kind of customer, and also to take into consideration their challenges. One of the challenge, for instance, in the city of Lagos, is traffic, time. We know that entrepreneurs' time is precious, and moving anywhere around is not only extremely time consuming, but also getting more and more expensive. Cost of your time, cost of fuel, traffic wahala, and everything else involved. So for that reason, over the last years, we have almost fully digitalized our loan cycle. But this is not only to have a fancy sound product, but this is to respond to the needs of our customers. With this digital loan cycle, we have minimized time involvement requirement from our loan applicant. And we have also minimized the necessity of their presence in our physical branches. So we meet them in their places, we collect fully digitally all the data, then we process at the backend digitally. We also collect the loan application can be right now signed in the field by encrypted digital signature. So we have reached the stage where the only interaction or with the only point when the loan applicant is expected to show in our branches is at this stage still the loan disbursement. This is for certain risk requirements, but maybe in the future this criteria can also be waived. For some of our repeat clients, the loan can be disbursed fully in a digital way without a physical presence in the branch. So I think maybe I will pause here. That's the general approach. Does it answer the question?
Absolutely, absolutely. You even went beyond, because I was coming to the aspect of the challenges, but you've been able to undo that. And it's very inspiring to know that your mandate, which borders on ensuring that the partially secluded, the partially funded and the secluded and the unbanked are being taken care of. And I think that has really helped in building your strategy and kept improving on it. And that's so wonderful. I say well done to AB. So I would like to move to another question from the audience. I have here, is AB Finance credit offer interest-driven or on profit sharing with the borrower? And Anonymous wants to know.
Yes, thank you for the question. If I understood it properly, the question is if we are interested in the loan scheme when we share the profit with the borrower. It's kind of a project finance. If that's the question, then the answer is not for now, not yet. We still, as I mentioned, remain mainly dedicated to the core of our mission, which is supporting mainly the petty traders or people or small manufacturers. And profit sharing scheme is still not the area that we have embraced. Maybe in the future, but for now, the demand for such services has been marginal. So for that reason, no.
Okay, thank you for that. I'm very sure that individual has taken note. I would like to ask this question. I think this should be directed to maybe Dr. Popola And of course, Mr. Powell, you can also share your insight. Particular person, Queen Walker, is asking, please, how do I get started with credit building? I have never borrowed before. I need the steps to get funding for my new business. I have a business account with GT Bank. This individual wants to know, as a fresher, just wants to start taking loans. So how does he or she go about that?
So I didn't hear you well. I
Who
don't know
wants
whether
to
Powell
take
heard
that?
you completely. It was breaking.
Okay, let me take it again. Can you hear me, sir? Can you hear me? Is it better now?
It's still breaking. But Powell, can you hear him?
Yes, I can hear
okay,
the question. So maybe I will start the answer, and then Mr. Popola will join. I will start from our perspective. So not having a loan before, it's actually a very, very good question, because it helps me to emphasize on another inclusiveness part of AB Microfinance Bank approach. So having a previous loan history is not a requirement by our bank to have the first loan with us. There are some requirements, like for instance, having your business for a specific period of time. I think currently we have the requirement of 12 months. And this is the major requirement, being an adult and having some business experience. If you can exhibit to us that you have run successfully, even the smallest petty trading business for the period of 6 to 12 months, this is a sufficient starting point for us. You have also mentioned that you already have a bank account with one of the commercial banks. This also means that you have some history of transactions, which can only help. This is not also required by us, but it is like an extra support, improving your chances to get the loan with us. So in principle, to start from a smaller loan, business history and the proper character would be sufficient for us.
Thank you. I hope that response is sufficient for you. And I believe you can now take the move in accessing loan. Okay, this question is, Dr. Popola, do you want to share some insight also? Is a new individual that wants to start taking loan, taking credit. He or she has never accessed credit before. Do you want to share some insight on how he or she can go about that, to add to what Powell has shared?
Okay, so let me try to attempt that of someone who has never taken a loan before, right? And wants to have seen the need. So I think so the starting point is to see the need. Is there a business need? Is there a funding gap that you have seen in your business? Do you want to, are you experiencing difficulty in meeting obligations that your business will have to meet? I think that's the starting point. So a loan should not be taken when you have not established the fact that there is a proper and specific need for a loan. For instance, if you want to grow your business, maybe you want to do expansion, yes, there could be a need for you to acquire new assets, equipment, new tools, and so on and so forth like that. Or maybe working capital, like I said, you want to increase on the quantum of operations, and you see the need for that. Maybe you need to buy more raw materials, or maybe it's your business is a cyclical one or a seasonal one where you need to do more during festival period. Because festival is approaching, there's always going to be an increase in demand for your product, and so on and so forth, and you need that. So the first is to identify, why do you need a loan? And the second is, how much do you really need? Okay, so, and then the third, where will the repayment come from? Is it going to come from the source of the business? Is it from the transaction you really want to spend the money on? Is it going to come generally from the cash flow generated by the business, and all of that? I've always said that maybe you need to find out about yourself from the credit bureau to be sure that you have very good and neat record before you even go and approach a lender. So you can go to CRC website, for instance, or you can download through the app, CRC mobile app, to check your credit score and your credit report to be sure that you are clean. You don't have something that can be a minus for you when AB Microfinance Bank or any other person want to, review your application. So, do you have the capacity to repay the loan? This is very, very important because it's easy to go and take money, but remember that money is not yours, it's a liability once you take it. And so you should always have it at the back of your mind, not just at the back of it, specifically that you have sources that will repay the loan. We always encourage that loans be repaid through the transactions of the business, not through collateral. Like you have listened to Powell, he has said that for collateral, they don't even look at cash. They are very flexible around that. So lenders generally want to take collateral as a second and last option for you. They want to look at the transaction itself, self-financing. Is this something that they can rely on you from your business, from what you do every day, from the transaction you want to borrow to do, that it will repay the loan? And that's something that you have to be there to do. Then the final one is that you must be ready to pay the price. There are always interest rates attached to payment of a loan. Some people, and this is where it's become very important for you to look for those who have interest rates that are not too high for you. Because if you add the interest rates to the loan you are taking, and you realize that by the time you finish doing the transaction, it will have wiped off the entire gains. The interest rate will have wiped off the entire gains. It may not make sense for you to go in that direction. So don't go to loan sharks, those who put very high interest rate that at the end of the day, you're unable to even service the loan. And those people, more often than not, once you enter the net, you're unable to come out like yourself again. So these are just additional things I want to add. I want to also add one comment on those who are looking for loans that are not interest-based, that are based on profit sharing. There are institutions that are already in Nigeria that provide facilities in that regard. There are licensed microfinance banks, there are licensed commercial banks that the CBN have granted, the approval to provide loans that may not necessarily be based, pricing will not necessarily based on charges of interest, but on profit sharing. Maybe you need to approach that. I don't want to be mentioning the marketing individual institutions on the platform, but there are so many of them out there. I know that even for intervention funds that the Bank of Industry is doing, they have a window for, products that are not interest-based, but that are based on profit sharing. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for that insight shared. But I would like to stay with you, Dr. Popola, on this next question. And it says, how do CRC control too much interest by creditors? And how do CRC also identify illegality in the service by the creditors?
How do too much, it's CRC control too much interest? I don't understand that question.
Too much interest by creditors. Like maybe the person wants to know whether CRC even controls. So he or she is asking, how does CRC control too much interest by creditors? And how does CRC identify illegality in the service by creditors?
Oh, okay, all right. So we don't control. We are just a data center. We are a data company, and our data is credit data. And in credit data, furnishers of such data like AB Microfinance Bank and all other banks in the country will provide everything about the credit to us. Normally around 4 segments. There is what we call the demographic information or firmographic information if it's a company that talks about the name, date of birth, means of identification, addresses, and all of that. Then they also supply everything about the loan, the amount, the rate of interest, the tenor, other conditions that are attached to it. If there are guarantors, they supply guarantees, guarantors information. Such information are there. Then we also now give, so we now use that to now give the performance of the loan, which is what the creditors or lenders like AB will be interested in. What's been the performance of those loans? Has there been any default in the past? They also will be interested in how many loans have you taken and what's the total value of the loan to know whether your exposure is already high, vis-a-vis your transactions or your income, and whether this new loan you want to take can still be accommodated in addition to the ones you're already enjoying. And if you have issues around litigation around the loan, we will have that noted on your report. If you have return checks, we will have that noted. So that, because all of these are information that lenders need to be able to assess your character and your willingness to repay based on what you have been doing in the past. So that's what I will say we do. We have data for all financial institutions in the country, but we also have data from other sources that are not even financial institutions. And this is why it becomes very interesting, because we know that when we are talking of credit, it's not just banks that give credit. Cooperative banks do. Discos do. Telcos do. You enjoy their services, you pay later. Those are form of credit, like I've explained when I was talking about buyer's credit and sellers and suppliers credit. So if you have postpaid line from a disco, we will have that information. If you have postpaid issue, from let's say you're a company and your company pays after enjoyment of electricity and you have defaulted in that, we will have such information in the credit bureau. If you are with a cooperative society that has enlisted with the CRC and you are borrowed from there, we'll have that. If you have a school, if you have a child in a school and you have you didn't pay the school fees, and the school is a member of CRC and they have submitted the data, we will have that information. If you have leased an asset and you have leased an asset, so in which case, through a leasing company, that information will also be in the credit bureau. If you are a pharmaceutical company, if you maybe you are a sales agent with a pharmaceutical company, and they do have granted you their product on credit, which you are supposed to be reselling, we have quite a lot of them who have subscribed to the bureau. So it's a big, big database. And what do? We have what we call validation rules that we use to see the reasonableness of the data that have been submitted to us, to validate whether they are correct or not correct, to see whether they are valid or not valid. So we have rules, and those are internal guidance for us, by the way. But what I can tell you is that when people submit information that are not genuine, it's also punishable by law for you to mischievously submit information that you know is not right or is not correct. So all our subscribers, all our customers who are basically all these institutions I've mentioned know all of that, and they sign agreement to that effect. Don't forget that the operation of a credit bureau is backed by a Credit Bureau Act, the National Credit Reporting Act, that spells out that everybody who submit data to the bureau have responsibility to ensure that the data submitted is correct in all forms. And for us as a bureau, our job is to preserve it and make sure that we give it only to authorized people who have authority to access, who have the legal rights to access. So I hope that answers the question to a great extent.
May I add something?
Yes, Power.
Thank you very much. I mean, despite the question was not directly to me, but I think the question raises some import that requires or deserves a clarification in this quorum. So Mr. Popola mentioned about the role of CRC plays in that process, but I think for me it's very important to mention how do we come about the pricing of a loan? Because, for instance, is 5% monthly a lot, or it's not enough? And I think I would like to briefly mention and share with those interested what defines or determines the pricing. So it is the same like with your own business. In your own business, you have to take into account the cost of inflation. The 30% everything that you buy to your household is more expensive every year. Your salaries that you have to pay to your employees, electricity, Mr. Popola mentioned, and other costs. And then, given all these things, taking all of them into consideration, you set the price for your product, obviously purchase price of the product, and you set the price accordingly to have some margin of profit that covers all those costs and leaves some income for you. And coming back to my statement, is 5%, for instance, for a microloan a month a lot? Is it an aggressive pricing or it is not enough? Well, this price is determined also by similar market conditions. So it's not that the CEO or the CBO or somebody else, shareholders or investors, tells you are supposed to charge that much to maximize your profit. We also start our pricing of our products in the same way as every other entrepreneur, as you running your business. So we say, for instance, we look, inflation rate is 30% in the market. This gives you 2.5% costs monthly for anything you buy, from fuel to stationaries that you equip your people with. Second thing, cost of capital. So for instance, we have deposits in our bank that we pay up to 24% for. This means a monthly cost of such a deposit is 2%. This is the cost of the capital. This is how we obtain the funds, the money that we can later lend to you. Yeah. So this is the second component. And the third important component, there are many more, but I will just focus on the most important. The third component is the staff. We also have people, 1,200 employees, who also have their families, who also expect salary increments every year once the things are getting more expensive. And we need to make, so 2.5 monthly cost of inflation plus 2% example of cost of funding is already 4.5. And there is still the costs of our staff and other operational costs of the banks, electricity bills. This is not delivered to us for free. And this is how we come about the price of the loan. So then at the end, sometimes it happens that in our meeting with customers, somebody raises the question and says, do you think that your loan pricing is fair? Do you think that 5% is not too much? And this is how I always try to reply, that even if it is perceived by somebody too much, there is no aggressive approach in this pricing. We always start from the market conditions and making sure that we can deliver our product in a profitable manner to the market. And then some of the components that build the price of the loan remain beyond our control. For instance, the inflation or the market conditions or the cost of capital that I have already mentioned. Nonetheless, given that, I also want to very, very openly say to those who think about taking the loan, if you think that the pricing is too expensive, no matter what is the explanation and justification of the bank, remember that you have in the market 1,000 microfinancing institutions and other digital lenders. And this is also my answer. I do not want to impose on anybody our pricing. I always say openly, if you think something is unfair, please go and check the others. Check what the others do. What are their requirements? What are their pricing? And then come back to us. If you still think that what we price is unfair, high above the market, we will talk to you. But very often it appears that after doing this homework, people realize that the pricing is more than justified. So that's my just a short addendum. Sorry that I stretched a bit the answer to the question, but I think the person raised very important point. Very important point that deserves some attention. Also to understand how the pricing of the loan happens. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for going to that extent. Thank you. Thank you for jumping on that question. You've provided a whole lot of insights for, in fact, not just for the individual that asked that question, but for all other participants. Thank you for sharing. So I'd like to take this, I'll stay with you, Mr. Powell. This individual is Muhammad Buhari and is asking, I think he's from Kano. In Nigeria, we have a rather informal business owners who have grown to be big business owners but unable to access capital. How is ABMFB able to assist such businesses, such as farmers? So they have grown. So, but it's being specific also to farmers.
In terms of the farming industry, this is the area that indeed requires a lot of capital funding in Nigeria. This is also the product, farming or agri-loan, as people refer to it, that we do deliver, but in our countries of our operations, like Madagascar, like Zambia, for instance, mainly because of bigger interest in those loans and our location in those countries, which is spread all around the country and also heavy presence in remote areas. Here in Nigeria so far, mainly because of our location, which is limited to urban locations like Lagos, like Akure, like Onitsha, we haven't started offering agro product because of little demand for it, predominantly. I mean, we are surrounded by traders, manufacturers, or service providers, and this is where 99% of our demand for the funding for capital comes from so far. So thank you for the question. I agree that agro lending is an interesting space. Sadly, so far, we do not have a product for that, but maybe with the future. I have already mentioned that we are present in 10 states, maybe 11 or 12 before the end of this quarter. And obviously, with every geographical expansion, which is also our way to be inclusive and to reach out more of customers in Nigeria, more borrowers, more entrepreneurs from different industries as well. Maybe moving forward in the future, we will have such a product. But in case the business belonging to your brother in Lagos is within the trade, manufacturing, or service, then I think he's very much welcome to contact one of our 15 or 17 Lagos-based branches for the first screening.
Mohammed Buhari has taken note of that response. This question is still directed to AB, Mr. Powell. This individual is Jacob Adeola Ajakaye. He's a senior. He says he is from one of the media firms in Kano, and he wants to know how AB. He says, how can my organization, which is in the SME category, be able to benefit from the facility which your bank offers? Is from the media firm, from a media firm. So, and he's in Kano. He wants to know how your facility can aid him. What benefits does he get?
I mean, in terms of payment services and payment products, we are inclusive for all Nigerians. However, in terms of the lending part of our business, despite that we are very inclusive and very welcome and have very few initial criteria to apply for the loan, this is unfortunately one of the criteria is that the business location has to be within the operational zone of one of our branches. So for us, for now, sadly, I'm looking at the map. We do not have a branch in Kano yet. I trust that we will in the future. But if we talk about the lending product, one of the very basic criteria is that for the sake of business relationships, certain monitoring, staying in touch and building relationship with the customer, the business has to be located within operational area of one of our branches. So I think that we will have an opportunity to interact in terms of lending in the future. So I ask you for a bit of patience. I think it was Jacob, if I recall the name.
Okay, thank
from
you.
the moment I came to Nigeria in 2014, I was always saying, this is also what I want to mention, that we say that we are AB Microfinance Bank of Nigeria. But for the first, I think, 7 or 8 years of our operations, we were present only in Lagos, Oyo, and Ogun. And this is one of the first things that I raised as a chief business officer and currently as a chief executive officer. I said that our name does not reflect of what we do. We have to move out of the southwestern corner of Nigeria. And this is what we've been consequently doing. Yeah? Over the last few years, as I mentioned, we are right now already present in 10 branches. So in entire East, a bit of South, very soon we will bridge West and East. And the next step, hopefully, will be going farther to the North. So thank you, Jacob, for the question. Please be a bit patient. I do hope, and this is my wish, that in the foreseeable future, we will be present also there.
Thank you. Thank you for that response to Mr. Jacob from Kano. Dr. Popola, this question, I would like to direct it to you, and it says, please, in a situation where a bank dubiously flags your company as having non-performing loan, how do we go about to rectify it?
Okay, so that's a very straightforward one. I see another post on the chat that has, how do I clear my name from the blacklist? So it's similar, and I just take the two of them together. So when you have situations where you have issue with your credit information, you have to write to the bank and then take it up with them. But you can as well also write to the bureau, and we can take it up on your behalf with the bank. So the starting point for you is to have access to it, to know your states, or you know your status, like I've mentioned, which you can get from the credit bureau, or you can get even from the bank. So once you have established that and you are not in agreement with what we have seen, then you can write us and you can send email to us at support@crcreditbureau.com, for instance, support@crcreditbureau.com. You can send that information there. We will try to investigate. We will try to contact the institution and say, oh, Mr. So says is contesting this information. And they will tell us whether what they have there is for them the position that you should have, or whether it's not. Now, we are in drafts for some time, and there's that conflict, because sometimes we have what we call conflict, dispute. We call it dispute. And it goes to a court. Then we'll note it on your report that you are disputing the information, so that whoever wants to use the information can know that that information is under dispute. You do not agree with it, but we won't take it off. We won't take it off. We'll just note it there to say you are disagreeing with the information, so that whoever lenders who you are approaching subsequently will know that there is an issue on that particular loan. What I always encourage borrowers to do is to clean up their credit, as much as possible. When you have taken a loan and you think you have paid the last something, always make sure that that loan, that information is made available to you, that you are no longer indebted to them. Get a statement to show that your account is already positive, it's no longer in debit. If you like, collect a letter to show indebted to the institution. But don't, because what normally will happen is that some people, maybe you have a loan and you have paid, maybe the last one is about 400,000 and you pay 400,000. But by the end of the month, an interest rate of 1,000 naira dropped after you think you have finished paying. And the institution will continue now to carry a debt of 1,000 for you. And then month on month, interest will keep on, topping that 1,000. Before you know it, that amount has become another big amount. And it all will be recorded as default and non-performing loans, which is going to be a minus against you. So always be sure that you have this. That's why I keep on talking about enlisting for situation where you can have access to your credit report, where you can always check yourself. We have products along that line that you can subscribe to, that you can be receiving the information every month. And if you don't want to do that, you can always on your own go to the website, or you can through the mobile app, always check yourself up at any point in time. So thank you. I think Power wants to add to what I've said.
Yes, thank you very much. Just very briefly, this also raises a very important point for all the entrepreneurs who look for financing from third parties like banks, for instance. The loan behavior is really, really crucial. It is something to observe because your loan behavior will always remain with you as your entrepreneurial CV. So it's really important. It takes it takes a priority over aggressiveness of investing in the business, over some vision and plans. If you do not have money to realize your goals, be very, very careful with assessing your needs, real needs and capabilities of repaying the loan. Mr. Popola made a very good speech about it initially in his opening statements, so I will not repeat. But then, even if this happens, this is what I want to address. The worst possible scenario is to become idle, disappear, abscond, and to think, okay, I didn't repay to them. There is thousands of other lenders in this country. This country has over 200 million people and 36 states. I will find my way somehow. Well, very sadly and very often the answer will be, you will not find your way because your record remained there. And thanks to well-working central bank in Nigeria and excellent institutions like CRC Credit Bureau, this track record is there. But also, so even if it happens, so it's really worth to make an effort and investment that such a situation will not happen. But what if it happens? Then you also have an options. There are two scenarios when the loan falls in overdue and when you default. One scenario is force majeure, difficulties in the business, justified means. Second scenario is unwillingness of the borrower. The second scenario is the worst, because if you don't want to cooperate, your track record and your CV, entrepreneurial CV, will always be blacklisted and spoiled. In the first scenario, even if you are overdue, but you remain open, cooperative, you come forward to the bank, you share your problems, you ask to find solutions together, I trust that even your bad record with credit bureaus and bad record with the central bank can be somehow sorted out, even if it is approached individually with the lender. If you ultimately close your loan, if you show your willingness to cooperate, the bank has any lender has tools to apply to you to make your life easier, even if the loan remains in overdue, but you cooperate and ultimately we close the debt or we come to some applicable solutions. I think the most of the lenders will be very happy to make some statement about your very proper behavior to those who track the record. And then even if it is in the records that you have been in overdue, there might be a note, this person is reliable. Something has happened, but this person is open and reliable partner and willing to cooperate. So that's my message. That's my strong message to every entrepreneur who is interested in searching for financing from any third party. Because things happen in life. Yeah? The fact that you are in overdue doesn't mean you are neither a bad entrepreneur nor a bad person. Things can happen. But the problem starts when you abscond and you think that, okay, I defaulted, so I will leave this loan by themselves, or you will leave these people by themselves. This is the behavior that I would like to discourage. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Powell, for sharing that. So there's a question here that is very closely related to what you just shared. And this person says that is an anonymous, right? For a debtor with another credit organization who is finding it difficult to pay back due to some difficulties encountered, but who is sure of bouncing back and repaying with ease if he or she is helped to absorb this loan by another credit organization and get a loan from the new credit organization for a van or bus for logistics business. Can your organization assist such a person after seeing how genuine and enthusiastic such a person is?
Well, it depends. If that loan, first loan, which is in overdue, has been paid in, which falls under the category of what I have just said. Then you have a clean card, and we can talk to see where do we stand, and then maybe. But if that loan falls in overdue, which means somebody, our peer financial industry institution lender, remains with the loss with the write-off, I would very much discourage that behavior, that some other lender presents opportunistic behavior and thinks, we will pay that loan, we will give you another because now you are our client and you pay interest rates to us. So forget about the others. For me, I think as a part of the financial sector, I would encourage a team spirit among the lenders, and I would say we should not ignore what happened to other lenders. Yes, because in such a way we can really spoil the market, and we can start encouraging very bad lending behavior. That it doesn't matter if you repay the loan somewhere else, you can default, you can expose the other lender to losses, and there will be always somebody else to come up and lend it. In such a behavior, it's a very dangerous behavior which can spoil entire financial entrepreneurial market in the country. So my appeal would be still try to do your best to sort it out with the first lender. And then once you sort it out and the issue is closed, talk to that lender, or if they do not want to talk to you, then you can come to another lender, but to say, listen, I had a problem and I closed that problem. I am reliable. I hope I have answered that question clearly.
That's excellent.
Yeah, I believe so. Thank you very much. But I'll stay on you with this next question, Mr. Powell. And this individual says, how can AB Microfinance partner with his or her company to offer products to clients that pay instrumentally?
The question is not clear to me.
Okay, how can AB Microfinance partner with this individual's company to offer products to his clients, to the company clients that pay instrumentally? So I think it's the repayment plan that the person is talking about. I guess so.
I think in principle we might have here some individual approach. If you are located within a business operational zone of one of our branches, I encourage you to contact the branch manager in that particular branch, present the details of that situation, and we might just look into it. If it falls under our category of existing product, then it's easy. If it doesn't, but it would be possible or kind of interesting partnership for both parties, we may approach that in some individual way. Without knowing more details, it's difficult for me to go to give more comprehensive answer. But based on what I've heard, I think I encourage you to approach one of our branch managers, and we will take it from there. Initially, Absolutely. We are open for any business relationship that makes sense and benefits both parties.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. Still on AB Microfinance, how can your bank support SMEs existing in rural areas where they have little access to technology? Can I engage you? That's the individual is asking. Can I engage you for banking transactions via an online platform only?
Yes, in terms of non-loan products, we are available because we have our loan application. We deliver all country domestic transfers. We have e-channels. So in terms of payment services through the application, your location doesn't matter. In terms of the loan, as I already mentioned, we need to have the business location without our operational zone. So if your business is located already within the operational zones of our branches, then you have unrestricted access to all products. If your business is located outside of our operational zone, I very much hope that it will not last very long because, as I mentioned, we have a quite good pace of opening new branches, despite being very digital player, despite being a pioneer of many digital services. We still have undertaken the hybrid approach, which means that no matter how digitalized at the back end we have, no matter the fact that we have tablets, that we have e-channels, we still have this approach of being presented to our physical locations in the states we are not presented yet. So if we are not presented in your state, hopefully we will loan product. For the other products, if you download our application, I trust that you may have access to most of the other products.
Thank you for that response. This question out there is for Dr. Popola, and it says, what role does CRC play in ensuring the effective implementation of government policies to support SMEs in Nigeria?
Okay, so there are very many government policies, but I think we should narrow down to government support for SMEs, access to finance for SMEs, because that's what we are discussing this morning. And there have been so many of them, starting from, so I mentioned the institutions that have been, set up specifically by government to support funding for SMEs. There is the Bank of Industry, there is the Bank of Agriculture, there is the Nigeria Export-Import Bank, there is NISA, there is NISA Microfinance Bank, there is Development Bank of Nigeria. There are so many of them that are, I will call intervention financial institutions. But there are also financial intervention funds that are channeled by the central bank directly but they are channeled through banks. So the support we have is to just make sure that our database is available for those institutions and those agencies to use to profile those who have access to the credit. Don't forget that the database is not just to record those who are in default. The database is also good to have those who are doing well with their credit status to be able to enjoy further facilities everywhere. So more often than not, we encourage these institutions to list all those facilities on the credit bureau platform so that those who are very good record can as well just use that to advantage in the future. More often than not, those intervention funds are supposed to be used to mainstream the borrowers into proper financial space. So when you take a loan now, that's intervention fund, maybe that's your first opportunity. If you do very well, a bank like AB Microfinance Bank, when you approach them subsequently, you will see that even when you do government funds, you pay down on time and in line with the terms and conditions that are attached to such favor from government. So that's what it is.
Thank you, sir. I want to direct this question to you, Dr. Popola, and it's, what types of information does CRC Credit Bureau collect and analyze to assess the creditworthiness of SMEs?
All right, so I've explained that in the past. I'll just explain again that what we collect is credit information. The credit information is about facilities that have been taking credit, that have been enjoyed, goods and services that have been enjoyed on credit. And I gave a lot of examples of institutions that do not grant cash credit, but you enjoy services from them on credit. Therefore, you are a debtor to them. I gave example of electricity distribution companies. I gave example of telecommunication companies, pharmaceutical companies, travel agency businesses, schools, and so on and so forth like that. So we collect all this information, information that will enable a lender or a creditor to be able to profile you for the purpose of assessing credit. And I gave us into 4 buckets. First is demographic information, information about your person. Who are you? What's your name? Where do you live? What address have you given to the financial institutions? What's your telephone number? What are your email addresses? What are your physical addresses that you have granted? All of those information the institution submits to the bureau and is now put together as one. Then we have information that we collect from on all your transactions, credit transactions. So these credit transactions, if it's a bank like AB, they will supply all the loans we have taken from them, the amount of the loan, the interest rate of the loan, the type of loan, the performance of the loan. They will keep on submitting that every month or as regularly as possible, even less under 1 month. Then they will supply, if you have you submitted a return check, a check which bounced against unfunded accounts, they will give it to us. We will go to court and obtain information around if there's a litigation around the transactions that you have. We will get information around guarantors that you have put together and furnished to the financial institutions or to the creditors. We will get information around so those are some of the information that we always will get, and we put all this together to now create a profile for you. That profile is what financial institution like AB is interested in when you approach them that you want to take a loan. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for that detailed information. I would like to take this also from you, Dr. Popola, and it says, given the diverse challenges faced by SMEs, how does CRC Credit Bureau customize its services to cater to the unique needs of MSMEs?
Okay, so what we have tried to do is we are a data provider, we are a data furnisher. We are not a loan granting institution. What we do is to provide data. So the only way is to ensure that your information is as transparent as possible and is updated as early as possible so that whoever is looking for your information will get updated information to the latest information about you. And so we have had the opportunity to provide services to our customers in such a way that they can actually even submit information. They can update your information as early as possible. They don't need to wait till the end of the month. So if you had borrowed yesterday, and maybe you can decide to put that information on the platform that same day so that you can then have updated information. If you've paid down, the same thing can happen so that you can clean up your name. But like I said, it's important for people and businesses to know that a bureau is not a black box. It's not a place where it's not a logbook for black defaulters who are not doing well. We are here to support, especially those who are doing well with their credit. And that's the beauty of the bureau. So you should be looking for your name to be on that list as much as possible. Be on the list for good reasons, for the fact that you are meeting all the obligations that you are supposed to meet. That should be the reason. So we provide a lot of product and services to the lenders to help them to really identify you, to provide you. First of all, we have products that they use that they can be able to prospect for you if you are a good business and you are a good, you are a responsible business owner in Nigeria. They can look for you through the data we have. They can also equally now profile you once you approach them. They can rate you well through the products that they enjoy from us so that they don't have a misinformation about you. And we also help them to update your information as early as possible, as soon as possible, to the latest information. We have credit scoring solutions that even if you are borrowing your personal name, the institutions can use our credit scoring solution to be able to know your credit scores. And if your credit score is high enough, then that can help them to properly price you and to also price you in concessionary with some concessions, because everybody wants to give loan to those who are going to repay and who are going to be responsible with their borrowing. So that kind of information is made available through this credit scoring solution, can help them to do that. So that's it for me.
Thank you, sir, for that detailed information about the customized services that CRC can offer to SMEs. I'm taking this question.
Sorry, the other thing I
directing
can
it
add,
to.
let me
Okay,
ask
sir.
another one. So SMEs can also join the bureau, and I think that's an area that I've not mentioned at all. If you are a SME, if you are a company and you are selling on credit, those who are owing you, you can also submit the information about them to the bureau. You just simply join the bureau. How to join the bureau? You can go through our website to see how do you join the credit bureau. Okay, so you sell on credit, you have so many people who buy your products on credit, you can then do that. Then you can then use us to now also access the people who come to you to buy on credit. For instance, if you are a travel agency business and you have joined the bureau and somebody wants to buy tickets on credit from you, you can check the information of such a person in the credit bureau to know whether the person is creditworthy or not creditworthy. If you are a school and somebody brings a child to your school, you can check to know whether that person is creditworthy or not creditworthy. If you are a supplier of information or a supplier of goods and the person wants you to give him credit terms, like maybe 30 days credit terms or 60 days credit terms for him to take away your goods and then pay for it later, you can check such information from the credit bureau. So those are ways for us to support. But if you don't want to join, then you can request such an individual or a company to bring their credit report, which you can then access and then, review to know how indebted they are, to know whether they are true to the obligations in the past. A bureau is about character. It's about look at the character of the people or the companies that want to do business with you. So these are very other ways for us to help you. So it's not just lenders. Even you as a business can really be a member of the bureau. And there are so many of them. We have, for instance, real estate businesses that joined. If they want to give they want to let a property to someone, they check the credit bureau to see whether that person really meets obligations, because more often than not, people pay for rent in arrears once they are in a property. So if you have other ways at which you are selling your product, but definitely it will involve you parting with your product or parting with your service for which they have to pay for later, then the credit bureau information become very handy for you to use. So the way to do that is for that you yourself, your company, to join. Or if you don't want to do that, then request them to join, to bring their credit report. Or they can empower you. You can request for them to give you a written information, a written permission, which you then bring to the bureau, which bureau can then release your information to them. But because if you don't do that, we don't release information to anybody that approaches us without consent. So we will need the consent of whoever to release information. That's why, because if somebody approaches you and now you want the credit report, we have to get the consent that person has given you that consent before we can release the information to you. I hope that helps the person.
Absolutely. Thank you for that detailed information, sir. Mr. Powell, I would like to ask, what are some of the misconceptions that SMEs have about accessing credit, and how does AB Microfinance Bank address these misconceptions?
Misconceptions. Two, maybe three things immediately popping up in my head. So first is very, very general. It's from the part of our customers. You need a loan to succeed. And I would say the bigger the loan, the bigger success. That is a misconception very often at the part from some of our loan applicants. So I've already said a few things about it. Mr. Popola said a few things about it. You need to be very, very careful, have a vision and strategic plan. What do you need the loan? How we will convert the loan into profit or extra revenue to your bank. And it doesn't mean that the bigger the initial loan, the higher chances of succeeding. It can be completely the opposite if you overshoot. So this is what I see still quite often at the from the part of our customers or loan borrowers. Second is also, I think what I've learned from our borrowers, the big misconception is that as long as the sales goes and as long as there is a sales income, everything is going to be fine. The business will thrive, every problem will be solved because I sold yesterday, I'm selling today, so tomorrow I will also sell. Still quite a number of our active loan borrowers do not approach properly the concept of cash flow management. So I would say, as long as you make sales, there is no problem. This is not sufficient. Maybe at the very early stage or with a very limited size of the business. But if you want to progress, if you want to build equity of the business, not only keep rolling over the sales, if you want to expand your business beyond where you are, I think this daily, maximum weekly monitoring of your cash in, cash out of the business is extremely essential, especially at the beginning when you are not that experienced, because this allows you to see the real management of the cash. This shows you the real picture of the business. This shows you real capabilities of potentially having more expenses in the business, applying a loan. This also, if you observe properly and you have a track record of your cash flow, cash in, cash out, helps you to observe some trends over the period of time. Just to give you a very, very clear example is that, I don't know if you observe that you keep paying every month huge money for a broken generator or for too much diesel cost of your generator for your business. Maybe it's a good investment instead of more of working capital, before this working capital, to invest in the better generator, which is much cheaper in terms of for your business in the longer term. It's just one stupid example, But in principle, the number two is misconception is that as long as I make sales, everything is fine. No, you have to elaborate a bit more if you want to be a successful businessman and to develop your business span. Cash flow management and observing these patterns is very important. And maybe also something like very practical, very down to the earth, without coming to big theories of economy. I have observed, recently all around the world, we've been talking a lot about your physical health, your mental health. I have observed this in Nigeria that, Nigerian entrepreneurs and people are impressively eager to succeed, hardworking, zealous, and this is certainly a big advantage. Nonetheless, working 24/7 also involves some constraints. So you also, as a businessman, especially at the beginning of your career, business founders, petty traders, extremely impressively hardworking people. I learned from my customers, But at the same time, again, very down on earth. Misconception is that, you are a machine, you are the robot. If you work 15 hours a day and you limit your sleep to 3 hours, then it can be only better for you, your family, and your business. Well, not necessarily. Remember that there is no business without you, and there is not you without your health. I think living in Lagos, for instance, is stressful enough. I mean, me, myself, to get to work, despite I have a company car, it takes me 1 hour, sometimes longer in the morning, and 1 hour, sometimes longer in the evening. During the third mainland bridge reconstruction, it was even up to 2 hours. So then you spend a few hours in the traffic, then you have stressful work, number of meetings, then you come tired at night. It can take toll at you, at your family. And again, remember, so the misconception is that you are a machine, but even the machines requires some rebooting. You restart your laptop every day, you restart your data center, you back up your data on another server in the cloud. So even, we are not robots, even machines need sometimes a silent period of switching off or restarting or rebooting. So remember, as an entrepreneur, as much as impressive and admirable it is, the hardworking spirit that I admire in Nigeria, you are not a machine. So if you don't take care of yourself, your family, there will be no business without you. So remember about your health as well. So the misconception is that, we can do everything. If we don't sleep, that's even better.
Thank you. Oh, this last question is for you, Mr. Powell. We are eating so much into our closing time. So I would like to ask this particular individual, Omotola Salau, is asking, collateral has been one of the major reasons and concerns why most MSMEs are scared of approaching the banks for loan. What is AB Microfinance position on emphasis on collateral?
I mean, you shouldn't be scared. So the first statement is collateral plays some role and is required, but it has been always my opinion. It is never the most important factor guaranteeing the loan being repaid. As a matter of fact, I have loan in overdue big SME people who pledged houses, cars. If there is no willingness to cooperate, this doesn't serve the purpose. So the biggest collateral is your character, your seriousness, your willingness to cooperate with the lender, and your entrepreneurial skills. If this has been determined, you are very well positioned to work with us. Again, I'm not saying we will not ask you for something else, but for me, the prerequisite is your character. Going further into that, even if you do not have hard collateral, and we have already determined your good character, your business track record, in these days, we can be flexible. I mean, you have your inventory that we can take into account. You can bring two guarantors, somebody who is financially stronger than you and trusts in your business, is your family member or your friend that can stand up for you. Another thing is any sort of equipment, as well. And also, the longer you are with us, taking us as an instance, the least also relevant the collateral coverage ratio to the loan is important. So this is one of the benefits of staying long with our banks, that the more loan cycles you have with us, the less restricted we are and less demanding we are in terms of the collateral coverage ratio. Collateral coverage ratio is the ratio which measures how much percent of the loan amount is covered by the collateral you provided. So let's say, as an example, that your first loan, lenders want to be covered 150 or 100%, which means if you have $500,000 loan, you have to provide $500,000 collateral. But if you are with us for a few years and you have taken, I have customers who have taken with us more than 20 loans. I have people who have been growing with us and we have been growing with them, starting from 200, 300,000, obtaining recently 20 million. Those are real examples. Yeah. So then the collateral also, if you build your history, if you build your trustworthiness with the lender, then the collateral almost stops being an issue at all. But this comes in stages. But then again, if I had a chance, CRC allows me to talk much, but if I had a chance only to reply with one sentence, my sentence would be, it is your character which is absolutely by far the most important component. Physical collateral comes behind that. And if you can determine your character and your seriousness, serious lenders, there is a high chance will work with you anyway. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Powell, for that insightful response to Omotola Salau. And I believe she has a better understanding of collateral when it comes to SME credit. Thank you so much. This has been a very phenomenal webinar. You and Credit 14.0.
Before you go, Moturayo, just one or two things before you go. I know we are already 12 noon, but quickly, because I saw some questions and I just do one sentence for them. Somebody was talking about mobile app that she couldn't proceed with it. There's nothing wrong with the mobile app. I think you just need to check your connectivity. The mobile app is working on all, whether it's iOS powered or Android powered. Secondly, somebody said, do we freeze account of debtors? No, we don't freeze account of debtors. We act on data submitted to us in line with what is submitted to us. And if you do contest it, we take it up on your behalf to discuss with whoever has furnished us with the data. And then there's someone who said he sells to retailers, and then he wants to give them, they want to pay between 2 and 6 months period. How can he benefit? Yeah, so such a business, like I said, you can join the bureau, go to support@crdbureau.com. You can get, when you get to our website, you know how to approach us. You find telephone numbers there, you find email address there. You can be a member of CRC, just like AB is a member of CRC or any financial institution. Like I said, you don't need to be a financial institution. If you sell on credit, like you have mentioned, you actually can also enjoy the privilege of joining those institutions that are members of CRC, and then have access to all information at our cloud database, and also submit your information to the database. Thank you. So those are 3 questions that I quickly just have to respond to.
Okay, thank you, sir. Because of our time, participants, we so much appreciate your time with us today. Please, if your questions have not been addressed, kindly send your questions to communications@crccreditbureau.com. All your questions will be answered, they will be addressed. Please send those questions. And because of our time, we won't be able to take all the questions today. And we want to say it has really been a very eye-opening learning session on learning for some and definitely relearning for many others. It's been phenomenal. We want Dr. Popwala to please close with his remarks and a vote of thanks. Thank you, sir.
Let me ask whether Powell has any one parting word other than what he has said first. Do you have any parting word, Powell?
Yes. To all participants, thank you very much for your very active participation, energizing participation in this session, and also make sure that you don't forget the lessons learned in case we answered your questions. And second, thank you so much to our partner CRC, which I find the best credit bureau in the country, for your contribution to develop entrepreneurship in this country. Always pleasure. Thank you so much for having me here.
Thank you very much. So I saw another question that says, how long do you keep my information in the credit bureau? So like Powell said, you can't run away, it's your character. The information is kept in the bureau for 10 years and it's archived away for another 6 years. So it's for 16 good years before that information disappears. So you're going nowhere with the data is always available for 16 good years. And that's what he spoke to when he said, it's good for you to come forward. And I'm saying my final parting words now to say that it's good for you to come forward and clear your name, clear with the creditors, and make sure that you are neat. If you are experiencing difficulty, it's always good for you to approach them. There's a way they always help. Banks, financial institutions are always willing to help borrowers, because they want you to have repeat, business with them. They don't want you to lose, because once you don't pay and you are in default and that goes round, then you're in problem. And like I said, that will be there against your name for 16 years. And don't allow that to, because even if you now pay eventually, that record that you didn't pay at a point in time will still be there for those period of time. So the best thing is for you to ensure that you don't have that kind of situation at hand. Today has been devoted to how to access credit, where you can get credit in the economy, and how you can properly manage your credit. And we have Powell Woods, the Managing Director of AB Microfinance Bank, with us this morning. We want to really thank you for this partnership. We want to thank you for your support. We want to thank you for being very, very, committed to growing the Nigerian economy. You've been here for 10 years, and I'm so happy that you are doing a lot, expanding the frontiers of access to finance for our people. I can only say a big thank you. I want to thank all the participants for staying something. We will have that record, and it's going to go to our YouTube, and you're going to continue to have access to this material. This is 14, web now 14. We did another one, I think it was in February or March. So we do this from time to time. I will keep on calling you. We believe we have responsibility to contribute to financial education in Nigeria, especially on access to credit, because when we unlock access to credit, prosperity will follow. And we are trying to play our role. So we want to thank you for being part of what you have put together in the last 2 hours, and hope that you find the session very useful. I want to thank my colleagues. Motunrayo has been fantastic in anchoring this program. There are, like television station, there are those who are producers and they don't feature physically, but there are so many of them there. Sika is there. Peggy is there this time around. He's not featuring. Jelilat is there. All my team members from CRC, I want to thank you all for all your contribution toward the success of this program. Thank you so much and have a wonderful day.
Thank you, everybody. See you around.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.